If you are using your iPhone to film your YouTube videos, there are some important settings we want to make sure are turned on so that you can get the best results. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my exact settings that I use on my iPhone 14 when I film my videos. My name is Melissa Mitchell and I help online service providers and coaches build organic lead engines on the back end of their YouTube videos so they can fuel their businesses with best fit leads. If you're looking to get started creating video content using just your phone, make sure to click the link below to sign up for my free mini course. All right, let's jump over into my phone and check out all the settings that you need to have. All right, so let's come into our settings app and let's scroll all the way down until you can find the camera. So it's somewhere down at the bottom here. And so what you're going to be looking at first is the format. So when you click into the formats on the phone here, there is two different options. There's high efficiency and then there's most compatible. So what we want to do is we want to leave it on high efficiency because this is going to save you space and it's going to allow you to create cinematic shots and shoot 4K and slow motion. The next thing underneath it at the very bottom where it says video capture is Apple ProRes. Now this will give you better quality videos, but it's going to take up so much more space on your camera. If you actually look underneath, it says ProRes is one of the most popular formats for video professional post-production. A minute of 10-bit HDR ProRes is approximately 1.7 gigabytes for HD and 6 gigabytes for 4K. Now that is taking up so much space in your camera, and personally, I don't think that's worth it when you're just creating videos for YouTube. If you were, going out and creating a documentary or something really cinematic, then maybe you would want to have Apple ProRes on. But for the average person's use for their business and for marketing, I like to leave this off so you can just save yourself extra space on your phone. Next, let's go back out of the camera and go into record video. And so in here, there's going to be some different options. You can shoot at 720p, 1080p, or 4K. And then there are also frames per second options that you're going to want to consider. So I want to explain the difference a little bit between 4K and 1080p. So I would recommend not using 720p at all. This is just going to be too low of resolution, but 1080p is perfectly fine for talking head videos just like this. If you're looking to save some space and you're not looking to do any slow-mo or anything cinematic like that, 1080p is perfectly fine. Now, if you're looking to film a little bit more cinematically and you're wanting to slow down your footage, or maybe you're wanting to film some more cinematic shots, then I would recommend leaving your phone at 4K. Personally, I leave my phone at 4K at 24 frames per second. Another thing to keep in mind here is that you could leave it at 4K at 24 frames per second, and then in the camera app itself, you can change around the settings here, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Now, if you're looking to shoot more slow-mo footage, you can change it to 4K at 60 frames per second, but again, you can switch this on and off inside the camera app. Now, if we scroll all the way down, there's another setting at the bottom that says HDR video, and we want to turn this off. The reason for this is if it's turned on and when you upload it into your editing software, your footage might look overly exposed because this is for a certain type of monitor and it's not necessary to have on for every single video. So I like to keep this off. The next thing is auto frames per second, which is right below the HDR video, and I have this turned off because if you look underneath, it says automatically reduce the frame rate to improve low light video and to optimize file size. Now, if you didn't really understand your camera at all, you could leave this on, but personally, I like to be able to manually adjust my frames per second and my lighting in the camera app itself, and I don't want my phone automatically doing this for me, so I keep this off. The next setting right underneath that is lock camera, and I do have this on. The reason I like to have this on is so that your phone doesn't automatically switch between lenses when you're filming. So for example, when I'm filming something and I want to be able to get really close to an image, I don't want the lens automatically switching to focus in on that image. I might want that to be a little bit blurry. I want control over what lens is taking over when so that I can get different images in focus when I'm filming. So again, this is a personal preference here, but personally, I like to keep my lock camera on so that I have more control over the settings when I'm filming. Next, let's come back out again and go right underneath that to record slow motion. And there are two different options when it comes to recording slow-mo. So there is 1080p at 120 frames per second and 1080p at 240 frames per second. Now 240 frames per second is going to be more slowed down than 120 frames per second. So I like to leave it on 240 frames per second. If we come back out again, there are some different options under composition. So there is grid, and I like to keep this turned on. And what this does is it creates that grid when you're actually on the phone or the camera app. And it just allows you to position things using the rule of third when you're filming. So I like to have that on. The other thing is mirror front camera. And again, what this is gonna do is it's gonna mirror your image when you're in selfie mode and when you're filming kind of just like this. And the third one is view outside the frame. And what this is going to allow you to do is you're gonna be able to see when you switch your different camera settings, where you could actually film outside of what the setting you're currently in is. And we'll kind of show you that when we get into the actual camera app itself. Next, if you scroll down, there's lens correction. And underneath it says correct lens distortion on the front and ultra wide camera. So I like to have this turned on just in case there is any distortion happening when you're filming. Your phone will automatically take over and help combat that. The next one under that is macro control, and I like to turn this off. So under it says show camera control for automatically switching to the ultra wide camera to capture macro photos and videos. Again, this is something I like to control when filming myself, to be able to see when I need the lens to be switched if I'm trying to focus on something really small versus when I'm backing up and focusing on or filming a larger item or person. Next, if we come back up to the top, right under the record slow-mo is record cinematic. And so depending on the iPhone that you have, if you have an iPhone 14, you will have this option. And there are 3 different options: 1080p at 30 frames per second, 4K at 24 frames per second, and 4K at 30 frames per second. Now, what cinematic view is going to do is it's going to allow you to blur the background. Just like you see in a lot of YouTube videos where the background is blurred, this is possible now on your iPhone, which is pretty incredible because for myself, I had to go out and purchase a separate lens to be able to do this on my professional camera. So the fact that now iPhones allow you to create cinematic blurred backgrounds is absolutely incredible. So personally, I like to leave mine at 4K at 24 frames per second. Now, if you come back down into preserve settings, there are some options here that we want to take a look at. So the first one is creative control. So this preserves the last use filter, aspect ratio, light or depth setting, rather than automatically resetting every single time you're going to film. So once you get this perfect in the way you want it, I like to turn this on so that every single time I'm about to film, it keeps my settings for me. Now let's jump over into the actual camera on my phone itself, and I'm gonna show you some settings there. Okay. So you're gonna see my beautifully messy desk over here, but let's look at some different settings. So if I flop over into video, there are some options that we want to take a look at. So at the very top hand right corner, you can actually change the frame rate right up here. So you can see it's 60, 24, 30. So that's actually changing the frames per second manually right inside the camera app. Right beside it, there's the 2.8K and then HD. So again, you're switching between 4K and 1080p right there. Right beside it, there's this little looks like a guy that's like running, and you can turn that on and off. And so what's happening here is when you're running or you're walking or you're trying to do something where you're moving and taking video, this is going to kind of stabilize your footage for you instead of having to use something like a gimbal to help stabilize your footage. So this is also a new setting that's come in the iPhone 14, and it's absolutely incredible. I love that they put this in here. It's going to help so much when you're taking videos on the go. Next, at the bottom, you're gonna see some different options. So right now I'm just in normal video, and there's 0.5, 1, which is more zoomed in, 2, and 3. So there's your zoom options. Then if you come back out, you can switch to cinematic, which is gonna create that blurry background. So if I actually switch the camera to film myself, you're gonna see that there is that the background behind me is actually quite blurry. Whereas when I come into regular video, now it's not as blurred, right? So cinematic is quite nice, and I love to use it when filming content. So let's switch it back to my lovely messy desk. The other thing you can do is you can actually tap focus. So when I tap on the screen, you're gonna see that the focus little bubble pops up, and this is kind of tracking where the camera is going to be focusing. And then also when you tap there, you're going to see the sunshine come up. So I can pull it up to make this shot brighter or drag it down to make the shot darker, and then you can just hold it and it'll lock that in place. The next in cinematic, you can also go into 3 times, which is, 3 times zoom or just the regular zoom. And then the next option is slow-mo. So if I come over into slow-mo, the same kind of options, you can do the 0.5, the 1, and then the 3. So there you have it. Those are all of the settings that I personally use on my iPhone. Now, one other tip that I want to tell you about is when you're filming yourself, so you're taking like a video of yourself in selfie mode, I would really recommend using the back of your camera instead of putting it on selfie mode itself on the camera. This is just going to allow the quality of your video to be so much better. But you might be thinking, well, if I do that though, how am I supposed to see myself when I'm filming? And so there are some tricks that you can use to still use the back of your camera, but still be able to see yourself. The first one is to mirror your image on your phone to either your laptop or a TV or even your smartwatch. If you have an Apple Watch, you can actually mirror it there, or an iPad, something like that, so you can actually see yourself in that other external screen. You can also buy a mirror monitor for your phone, and I'll link a couple options below this video for you. If you don't have another Apple product to be able to mirror to, you can use an HDMI cord and then hook up your phone to that external device, whether it's a PC or something like that, and be able to use that as the external monitor. Or number 4, which is completely free, is you can actually put a mirror behind your camera and see yourself in the reflection of the mirror. So that's a nice free hack if you're looking to be able to see yourself, but you don't want to spend any extra money. Now that you know all of the settings that you need to set up on your iPhone 14, make sure you check out my other video to learn how to get started filming your videos with just your phone. And I'll make sure to link it in the YouTube cards above here for you. I would love to know, is there any other phone setting hacks that you know of that I haven't mentioned yet? If so, let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for fun new ways to use my phone when it comes to filming. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and share this video to your social media so that other people can benefit from its content. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.